Welcome to Across the Desk and our new series in partnership with Maddie Dever, the Autistic Rambler. Maddie is a non-binary autistic advocate engaged in political advocacy, a parent of 5, and a very funny person. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about, and we look forward to you joining the conversation. Now let's get to rambling. Oh, hello and welcome to Across the Desk. My name is Elizabeth Bloof and I am the host of Across the Desk. And so excited to continue our adventures in Maddie Land with the wonderful Maddie Dever, who we are experiencing some technical difficulties with Maddie today.
Yeah, there are some words that may get mistranslated, but just bear with us. The coffee is flowing, and by the end of this episode, the coffee will be complete.
And did you make it in the place where you make the food?
No, I made it in the place where I make the coffee, where the good, the good day juice comes from.
The good day juice. Gotcha. The brown happy juice.
Exactly.
Drinking green tea. So that's,
the beans of glory.
Oh, I like that. Oh, well done. That was sharp. Okay. Maybe he's coming online or they're coming online. Cookie was having a rough start. All right. So in the interest of Cookie's sanity, we have an interesting topic today, and it's one that I feel very passionate about because it saddens me to no end when folks feel they have to travel a difficult journey on their own, or feel like they're the only one, or a member of our board. So I have a not-for-profit. I have a for-profit, Spiro Careers Canada, and we're focused on technology solutions for the autism unemployment crisis. But we also have a not-for-profit, Socially ASD, and that is focused on social network building for adults 18 plus on the spectrum. And one of our members said, not only do they feel alone, but they feel as though when they walk into a room, nobody will understand them and that everybody will think they're weird. And it's so paralyzing for them that they can't function in a social space. So we're jumping into an interesting thing. And this actually comes about, with Maddie and mine's friendship as well, is that it's an allyship. And fully believe with every fiber of my being that building a tribe is one of the single best pursuits you can have. I will warn you in advance, just to FYI, we have a new puppy and it may make an appearance because he tends to just charge in willy-nilly.
All right.
But it's that, and you said something, I think it was in podcast 1 or 2, and you said it during one of our Autism Alliance of Canada event meetings, which was that seat at the table.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. It was actually sort of unpacked this idea at a podcast we did back about CJAE last year, and basically we need, there's picture a stage where there's the table that decisions are made on are on that stage. The people are around the table there, and what we need is that we need allies to build the ramp to that table so that we can be there. And not only that, we need to make sure that around the table, we are heard, we have an equal voice, we're understood, and being around that table can be difficult for us because it's new, for many people. The ability to be listened to and heard is not something that we have had a lot of experience with. And because of that, there's issues of trust and issues of insecurity.
Which I think for anybody, it's interesting if we look at the statistics around things that people freak the F out about. Number one is the dentist, which, quite frankly, y'all know what's going to happen when you're going in there. So I don't understand why people freak out. But anyway, but the next is public speaking. And I swear to you, from very young age, I remember getting pulled out of grade 1. My family's from the UK, and there's a show called The Wombles. There used to be a long time. You remember The Wombles?
Yeah, Bernard Crickford just passed away
He did
yesterday.
93 though. That's a good
Oh, I know.
run.
Oh, I know. Yeah, and I know him especially from Doctor Who. But oh my gosh, yeah.
Okay. So look at that. We have another allyship over weird voiced people. So I used to love the Wombles, and I either on one of our trips to England or got sent to me was a Wombles t-shirt, which you couldn't get here. And I got pulled out of class to go and talk to another class about my Wombles t-shirt. No idea why. It's going back a number of years, but I remember at the time I'm like, all right. Like it never occurred to me to be afraid, never occurred to me that I was not going to do well at that. So I've struggled to understand that fear. I've respected and I support folks 100% because I know it's not everybody's jam. And I will sit down for as long as necessary to talk that individual through whatever they need to get there, right? To get to that place where the fear is manageable. I wonder, so Matt, I just had an idea and I will love your opinion on it. Could there be a differentiator between allyships and opportunities for micro allyships? So micro allyships being like teachable moments or like collision moments where you might not be a long-term ally, but in that moment, you create a tribe or an allyship with an individual to help them deal with.
Okay, so I think let's unpack tribe. We'll talk about that a little bit later because I think tribe's more belonging to a set of people similar to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of yeah, I mean, I think any moment is a good moment. Any opportunity is a good opportunity to, if you have people around you that are not at whatever that table is at that point, to make room. It's about being aware. It's about always good allies start seeing the invisible barriers, and an ally is a person who's going to be trying to move the barriers, yell at the barriers, destroy the barriers, and just acknowledge
that shit out of them barriers.
Yeah,
got it.
Exactly. It's the people who are not allies cannot see barriers, right? Because if you can see a barrier and you're not doing anything about it, you're not an ally, right? Or you're not. Yeah, I mean, the allyship is an action. An ally is a person. Allyship is the action of being an ally, and being an ally is being alongside, protecting people in a particular diversity, walking alongside them, opening the doors for them, bringing them, blasting those barriers, right?
Right.
Like Han Solo was an ally to the Jedi. It was blast.
We are going to have multiple weird references through. I get it. I'm on board for the crazy train. It's Friday morning and it's a beautiful day and we're going to be knocking the crap out of this. But you just got me thinking that so people might perceive the role of being an ally or the action of allyship as too big for them. And maybe if we give some context, right? So you made a really interesting point there about the table can be whatever the barrier is about. So why don't we delve a little bit? Because I think this could be kind of cool, is like that micro allyship thing where, so being an ally and taking action in allyship requires practice and it requires a bit of confidence. But it can be as simple as lending your skill set to a person in need. So if I'm in a situation, and I've done this many times with an individual who's panicked about going on stage, I will stand with them and lend them my stuff, not my presentation or whatever, but
energy.
Yeah, thank you. So an energy exchange of sorts, because that's what that individual needs at the time. And it can be as simple as that. It can be simple as standing beside somebody.
Yeah.
And just offering to stand with them.
like you're talking about your the autistic that's on your board, and like when they walk into a room, they're afraid that, well, they in a case like that person, just an allyship for that person would be somebody just simply recognizing them and sitting beside them,
Yeah.
recognizing them, saying, what can I do to help? Not, allyship isn't necessarily the doing much, but recognizing that there is diversity in the room, recognizing that diversity, especially when it comes to autism, that there's there's fear, trust,
It's a
and
complicated
sensory challenge.
emotional.
Yeah. So just the simplest thing to do is to go beside and say, hi,
Got your back.
I'm so and so, what can I do to help you? Right.
Yeah.
That's, and I think of, when I think of movies and whatnot, where there's this awkward kid comes into a class, and this fresh-eyed, doe of a kid comes alongside, it's like, hi, and sits down beside them, and adopts them immediately. I mean, that's allyship, right? That's
100%.
That's allyship. And allyship is where you're acknowledging that the person that's in front of you is an equal, but just is not prepared for the world around them in that moment. And as opposed to somebody who makes it about themselves helping the
Makes
and that's not an ally, right?
That's ego.
Like
That's ego in
like,
it. Yeah.
An ally brings you in, right, to make you part of the event, the team, the whatever. And allyship is encouraging that path of equity, and
equity or equity?
This is equity.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what equity is. I was just checking.
I don't know, but it could be acuity or cutie. I don't know. I'm a cookie.
You're a chocolate chip nut cookie. There we go.
Oh, without the nuts. I've got the nut built in. I'm a coconut. That's what I said. Yeah.
Ooh, I like coconut. I mean, I'm anaphylactic to other nuts, so I'm glad you're not one of those.
That's true.
I'm literally anaphylactic. I'm not being facetious or putting anything down. I'm anaphylactic to nuts.
Yeah, I am as well. Yes. I'm surrounded. Yeah, that's why I don't handle people so well. Certain people.
Okay, take it down, man.
Exactly.
See, we slipped the man in there again. But you just made a really interesting point. So honestly, trying to support and ally with somebody versus doing it out of ego, because when it's an honest allyship, you are bringing them to the table. When it is an ego motivated situation, you are presenting them to the table as in look who I brought. And that's not cool. That diminishes an individual in ways that you can't even imagine, because the autism community deals with tokenism and presentationism and all the rest of it.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is allyship prevents tokenism.
Yeah.
True allyship, there's no tokenism with it. The danger, and honestly, this is why autistics in particular have had issues with the whole concept of allyship, is because there have been many allies in sheep's clothing.
Allies in sheep's. That's, but that's 100% fair. And I had an experience with that a while back. And I mean, I can tolerate nuts, like true nuts will kill me, but I can tolerate nuts as far as people go. What I can't tolerate is incongruency and disingenuine engagement. And those sound like really poncy words, but don't come in and try and bullshit, and don't come in and try and make it about you, because that's not what this needs to be about. Drives me nuts as well that schools use tribes as a means of bullying management, but they don't ever actually, I just don't even get me started. Namaste. But they don't ever actually teach kids, to my understanding, leadership in that capacity. So it's not enough to say, now we have to look out for one another and we have to blah, 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 blah horseshit. Because if you don't teach a kid the value of leadership, and if you don't teach a kid the value of allyship, and if you don't teach a kid that even just going and standing beside somebody is enough of an action to count, then they're going to get overwhelmed by what they have to do and choose nothing.
And okay, so allyship is part of leadership, and really teaching these skills, to people is really teaching them how to be good humans. I mean, to be honest, every one of us should be, good allies, and every one of us should be able to, no, I'm gonna say should. I mean, it's a
we don't want to
particular
shit on
struggle.
people, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, depending which way you pronounce that.
do with that what you will, my friend.
Exactly. But it's having, looking at the world around you and seeing what is out of place, and trying to step into to help with that is really good life skills, no matter what it is, right?
Agreed.
We're talking about allyship with autistics, but it can be anything and anybody. And when you are a good ally, you do feel good. Like there is a boost that you get, but it's if you're going into it because you see something out of place, you see something wrong, you see someone that might need help. And another rule about allyship is that if somebody says no, I'm okay, or no, I don't want help right now,
off.
Exactly, because if you don't, you are making it about you, right?
Yeah.
You the whole white savior complex that so many people can get. Like it's worthy to try, but it's there's a point where it stops being allyship, and it stops being it starts being more, it can get toxic pretty quickly. But this is something that I know with my own kids in school, and we'll try to avoid all the negatives, but there have been a couple teachers that have seen my one of my kids and seen some other kids and thought, you know what, I think I need to put them together, because this person over here will help this person here. And honestly, it made such a huge difference.
It's also how it's done, right? Would you
yeah, exactly.
It's
absolutely
not, hey Johnny, you go take care of Sally now, because whatever. It's a conversation between the three parties involved to say, I see this potential. Does this work for you? Because although as an outsider, we might think this is going to be awesome, the individuals involved might be going, what the shit?
Yeah.
And
because my child really wants to be around people, wants to connect, has no idea how to break through. Well, they've gotten a lot better in life, but that's like, it has been a struggle. It's like there's 3 or 4 kids. I don't know what to do. I want to be them. I'm going to observe them, and I'm probably going to look weird because I'm just watching them. But this other kid that was brought in is the very extroverted one who would say, "Hey, come on in." And it didn't matter.
That doughy-eyed kid you mentioned before.
Exactly.
I was that little freak, by the way.
I am not surprised at all. Yeah,
it just wouldn't occur to me not to. It just wouldn't occur to me not to.
You made a comment earlier about like that you were just taking out a class and throwing in another class and say, "Hey, talk about this," and you're like, "No, I can do it." Good.
Yeah.
I would have been a kid that if you did that, I would have cowered, I would have ran, I might have bolted, I would have been. When I had to do public speaking, I might be sick for that day or that week around that time. I until I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I could not even step in a room full of people and ask questions. And it's hard to imagine because of the way I am now. Like,
no, it's not at all, because we all have things like, and I so appreciate you sharing that, because I think people would meet you and think, holy shit, they have their stuff together and they've always been this way. Well, some of us know the difference. That's just besides the point. But
we know the secrets.
We do. But in the best possible way, because what that does, that vulnerability to admit that it took you time and effort and ambition to be able to get to where you are now. And I mean, Maddie, honestly, I am gobsmacked on a regular basis by how you advocate and how you step into the conversation. And if there isn't a seat there, you just roll your chair up and make one. But what you've become with that ability to accept that you had that limitation, but that it didn't make you limited. It just was something you needed to work on, is you have now become the voice for the individual that would have cowered and bolted and ran. And I get a chill when I say that, because what you've done is shown folks what can be. Mm-hmm. And that allyship is a skill that is learned. It is a skill, much like you said, with your child looking at how the other kids were engaging. It is through observation. It is through exposure. It is through opportunity. It is not something you have to come out of the gate and be amazing at, but it is something that you have to desire to develop in yourself. I was born that way. That's intrinsically, I thought about it the other day, and I have always been one that does not have a ton of fear around trying new stuff. I know my limits. We had a friend of ours say, hey, you want to come jump out of a plane? And I'm like, you can go F yourself, because why would I jump out of a perfectly good plane and take my chances on a backpack that may or may not open? But you ask me to go in a shark cage, or you ask me to go, right? I have a picture of me holding the business end of a huge python. And I have other people that look at that and freak out. And I'm like, I had the tail end. He had the head end. Are you kidding me? I'm not dumb enough to hold the head end, but what's the tail going to do to me? So fearlessness is not something you have to be born with in order to develop it.
Yeah.
It is something that you can work with somebody on.
Yeah. One of the things, I actually, in so many other areas of my life as a kid, I had fearlessness. If there was ever a moment that I didn't feel like there's something was supposed to happen, but I didn't feel anybody taking the leadership.
Yeah,
boom, I would jump into it. I would be the person. It would be hard to reel me back when somebody actually was the leader that I found out later. I had no problem acceding to leadership, but if something needed to get done and it didn't see anybody leading on it, boom, I would jump into it head first. It was, public speaking was that one area that I couldn't do that in. But I do have to mention one thing you just talked about,
big snake.
No, actually, not wanting to jump out of a plane.
Who does that? That's just crazy.
The thing is, you have to be careful that you only have two people doing the skydiving at any one time, because you only have a parachute.
Oh,
parachute.
Did you just, oh my.
I just did, yeah.
That wasn't, anyway. Moving on.
Okay.
You don't have a pair of chutes? Yeah. Is that what we're,
gotcha. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I'm of the mindset that I know my limits. Heights is one of them. And so anything on the ground or moderately elevated, I'm on board. Anything, as long as I have a harness attached to me or something. But you asked me to go, jump out of a plane.
Yeah. I mean,
there's two options with that. The chute's either going to open or it's not. I am not rolling the dice on that sucker.
It is so weird. I look back, and some of the biggest fears I had as a kid and some of the biggest dislikes I've had as a kid totally changed in my 30s. And I do wonder if kids is part of it. I used to have an absolutely rigid fear of heights. I couldn't go up escalators. I couldn't go up glass elevators. I couldn't go anywhere near the edge of the ledge of a building.
Yep.
Probably a good fear, that one.
Yep.
But I know the moment that fear broke, because my oh my
You
gosh,
tell me
when
you
my
jumped out of a
son
plane, I will just.
no, when my son was 4, we couldn't find him.
Oh Lord.
And his sister said, Ashley's on the roof.
The roof
We
of
had
what?
this, he got onto over the solarium. There was anyways, it was the second floor of our house, and there he is, just outside, happily on the roof, not looking at anything, because he had climbed through the window. And yeah, so I went out there,
So he did
and
not inherit Papa's fear of.
oh God, no.
Yeah.
And I went out there, and I went and I grabbed him and carefully brought him in the house. And that is the last time I recall. I do not recall being afraid of heights after that. I went on ladders to paint in our house, which was massive, like two-story walls, where our stairs were. Escalators, never a problem again. Glass elevators, never a problem again.
Because you went over it, right? Like you got through it and you came back in.
Yeah, I know. It's just I used to hate ketchup. Now I love ketchup. I don't know. Things just change sometimes.
That's some weird shit. But that's
I used to hate eggs too. Now I love scrambled eggs, but I don't necessarily like ketchup on my eggs. Yeah.
Nothing about what you just said is okay.
Well, I didn't say pineapple on pizza, which I also do love.
Who on what?
Pineapple on pizza.
I love pineapple on pizza. So
there you go.
Exactly. Those weirdos who are like, you shouldn't have fruit on a pizza. I'm like, you should go away and don't
tomatoes,
touch my pizza then.
I would
tomatoes
say
are fruit.
Tomato fruit. Right? You almost only put fruits on tomatoes, fruits on pizzas.
Well, that's a good allyship. Pineapple on pizza is a very good allyship. But you make a really valid point, because I wonder if part of the challenge with people either asking, because keep in mind, folks, you need to ask for allyship as much as others need to give it. And if you go through this life never asking for help and, staunchly believing that somehow equates with independence, or asking for help equals weakness or whatever, anytime you ask for help, it is a sign of strength. I firmly my son and I had a little come to Jesus a while ago, and I'm not religious. I say that in a different capacity, that he wasn't asking for help for something. And I was like, what are you doing? Well, you don't ask for help. I'm like, are you bleeping kidding me? I'm like, I ask for help all the time. What do you mean? And he was absolutely gobsmacked at the thought, because I don't present that way, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be doing what I'm doing right now if I didn't ask for help. There's no way I could be running my company and all the other stuff that we're building and doing if we didn't. So collaboration is a form of allyship. When you find this podcast is a form of allyship. There's so many different ways to look at it.
Yeah. And some of the issues, I mean, I'm going to, autistics in general, when we sort of come to the point where like, we want to share our experiences. We want to make sure that, every other autistic kid out there doesn't go through the similar things that we do. We actually go searching for allyship. And it doesn't always go well, because like we tend to go, well, where are our parents? Let's go to a parent support group and let's tell them, like, let's share our story, share about everything that was bad about we're reading all these things about how bad their kids are, or how difficult the things are. It's like, well, let's talk about what happened to us and what we need to do to not have these happen. And you can tend to it's harder to find allyship in those areas, because what these groups are for and what autistics are trying to do have a similar feeling. Autistics want to help, and parents want to get help, but they're not ready to necessarily move from what they're doing. They're really more trying to get support for how they're experiencing it. And that's a real hard thing for autistics to understand, because like it seems you're trying to get help, but what you're really trying to do is get support, and support and help are two different things.
That's true.
And right, so support, like when we have a, some of us have a tendency to see things very, very in rigid black and white ways. So if there's a problem, well, let's find a solution. But what a lot of neurotypical people, and a lot of parents especially, they are looking for help, but they're more looking for support of how they're feeling right now. And
I also wonder sometimes if they're looking for confirmation of their methods or their biases. Like that's one thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I've never done well in parent groups, because I do not hold to the philosophy that you should kowtow to every stim and whim and rigidity of an autistic child. I think you absolutely have to look at each kid as an individual, and you absolutely have to do what works for that kid. I'll back up for a second, and I had a conversation with a mom to support what you're saying. And she came up to us at a show, or it was an autism and parenting or some kind of trade show type thing. And she's like, oh, so I have this 12-year-old son, and just can't seem to get him off the computer and yada, yada, yada. I said, okay. Now this woman was tall. I clock in at 5'3" if I stretch, right? And this woman was closing in on probably 5'10". And so society being what it is, I made the assumption that husband is likely taller because, generally it doesn't go the other way. So she's talking away about, but she doesn't want to fight about it, and it's not a big deal, and yada, yada, yada. I said, okay. I said, so you're 5'10"? Yeah. I'm like, is your husband shorter than you? Oh no, he's, he's like 6'4". I said, that's awesome. You have other kids? Yeah. And are they taking after the tall sides of the family? Yep. And your 12-year-old likely going to end up close to where you are? Oh yeah, he's on track to be like 6'2". I said, awesome. I said, so would you rather deal with a size of child at 12 that you can manage and have the battle with, or would you rather wait until 16, 17 when the amygdala to control impulse and whatever else has gone offline, hormones are a raging, and he's now a 16-year-old bag of hormones and 250 pounds? Oh. Now I couldn't tell, so I share this because I couldn't tell whether she was looking for us to say, there, that's a hard battle. You let that go and let your kid rot their brain on the computer for hours on end because, you've got a tough life. Or if she was expecting what I did, which probably not.
Yeah. That's it. Like parents. Okay. So neurotypical people are tending to look at things and they're dealing with two things at once. They're dealing with how they're feeling about something, and they're dealing about the thing that's in front of them.
Yeah.
And I generally, I find that strange and weird because I'm dealing with the thing in front of me, and how I'm feeling about it is that I need to deal with the thing in front of me. I mean, I don't have two things going on at the same time. It's like you can talk to me my feelings, you can talk to me about the thing in front of me, and like you can be a bit more direct with it, whereas you can't it's hard to figure out what they're talking. Well, no, and it's not that. It's like, what are you actually talking about? Like when you have something behind it and you have the thing in front of you, what are you actually saying? Like, are you talking about your feelings, or are you talking about the thing? And navigating that is so difficult. So one of the things that I realized, after some really difficult online, it didn't go very well, and I was there was a lot of anger flown at me, and I never fight back. I mean, no, I never. If somebody attacks me and starts yelling at me, I'm not going to flip back and just start yelling at them. I'm going to continue with the facts I'm trying to say, instead of going at the personality of the person. But it got to the point where it was really, really too difficult. I had to pull back, and I had to figure out, okay, I want to help parents. I want to help their kids. How do I do this differently? And I realized, I start off with, okay, so going into the hornet's nest and trying to say, hey, you can be hornets a different way, is just not a good idea.
No,
But
hornets are not nice.
exactly. But I realized, for me, I noticed there was a couple areas where I never had problems with parents, and we had really, really good co-allyship, and that was within education. There's I need more coffee.
Is it stuck in
There's
your
very
throat?
few. There's very few parents that of autistic kids that have not had challenges with schools, and so I spent more. I pivoted to most of the things that I was talking about, most of the things that I was sharing, most of the strategies that I was offering were all around how do we deal with and how do we fix this toxic education system that's just stifling our kids. And my ability to connect with parents just massively improved, to the point where
Because they weren't feeling personally attacked.
Yeah,
you were both going after the.
Yeah. And so what I'm trying to to tell all of the autistics out there that are listening to us, the many, many millions, is that
Positive.
like, if we're going down the same route and we're getting hurt doing things a particular way, can we pivot to do something different? What's the commonality between your life and parents' life, or your life and the provider's life, your life and people in the community, that you can offer a way of sharing? Because it's really difficult, and especially if you're not a parent of autistic kids, and you're just offering your experiences as a child.
That drives me crackers. It's like, you know what? I thank you. Stand down. Because until somebody said to me, oh, I know what it's like. I work with autistic individuals. I said, okay, but at the end, so I had to take a beat. And I said, okay, but at the end of your 8-hour day, off you go. And you can pack that up and you're done with it. I'm like, I don't have an 8-hour day with my kid. It is 24/7. And while you are invested in what kind of service you are trying to provide for that child in that moment, I am invested in my child's entire life. Every aspect. I am trying to create allyships with teachers and service providers and healthcare professionals and counselors and whatever else. I said, so please don't ever, ever think that your experience with somebody's child for a couple of hours a day ever equates with the investment that I, as my child's mother, have to make every single day, 24 hours a day. He is never off my mind, ever. And he never will be.
I would actually, and I sometimes I feel it's 25/7. I mean, that's what it feels like sometimes.
Because it's never out of your mind. Yeah.
And one of the ways, when I realized being in the hornet's nest was a bad idea, I created my own nest that was open to the hornets, that was open to the birds, it was open to, basically I created an online forum called Ask Autistics, where people could, or parents and professionals and people in the community, educators, whatever, could go in and ask questions that autistics would be the ones answering. It wasn't a support group for parents. It was a place for
resource.
Exactly. So because there are many parents that realize that that are trying to understand their child, and they're realizing they can't. Who might be able to? Professionals will tell them how they can treat their child. Professionals will tell them what therapies they could do, but it doesn't necessarily teach them what their child's like. And who can do that? Autistics No, I will. My experience as a child, as an autistic, will be different than your autistic
I was just
child.
going to say, like,
However,
we're back to the
yeah,
whole one
like
person with
yeah,
autism, one person with
exactly.
autism.
However, there are a lot of similarities to the way we
Agreed.
approach things. A lot of similarities to the experiences, and in me as an adult, I mean, I I do not I do not look or act or sound like your child. However, as a kid, in many ways, I did, and so having this place where it was an autistic led place where parents could come into safely, and autistics can be safe, was one of the biggest things that it allowed us to meet our need to help others
Yeah.
in a safe way for us and a safe way for
Be
parents.
heard.
And exactly. And through word of mouth, this group gets out there, and when parents are struggling within the parent groups because they're hearing the same things, the echo chamber, being able to go out and get a different perspective. And it's not to say that, our perspective, it's not whether we're right or wrong. It's just that here's how we've experienced things, and here's how your child might be experiencing it. And that's it's I've I have, because of that, allowed people to be allies to me, because I've found a way to be allied to them. And
You just said a very important word, though. You said a very, very important word right there. Do you have any idea what I'm gonna?
Allowed and let.
You do not, to Maddie's point earlier, anybody that offers you help, if it doesn't feel right for you, or now and I will caveat that as well, because my business partner, Paulette Goddard, and I are developing some e-learnings. And one of them is the difference between being forced and being pushed. And that is born of reading a few of Temple Grandin's books and some other books that we've read. If you are being pushed, there is benefit to that. If somebody's offering you allyship to help support a lifestyle change, a habit change, growth in some capacity, that's one thing. However, to Maddie's point earlier, if you are being forced to accept somebody's allyship, and on every fiber of your being, it doesn't work, you have the right to say no. Mm-hmm. And Maddie created a great construct where they placed guidelines, boundaries, whatever word works for you, around what this looked like, so that they protected themselves, and so that they were able to engage in an authentic way, and they were able to meet their need around being helpful and sharing information, but they also didn't get forced into situations or conversations or allyships that went against how they function. So that's really, we have to wrap up shortly, because I know you have another thing you got to do. But that's a really important distinction to make, is that you can also be in a position where you are pushing yourself to become an ally. And that's what Maddie did. They pushed through. They pushed through their fears and their experiences and the things in their life that told them, this isn't for me, but I know I can. But when I tried this time, it didn't go well. And, there's all that self-talk that everybody does around talking ourselves into or out of something. But they persevered. And now look where they are now, which is phenomenal. I'm not a great person at blowing smoke up people's butts. If I don't like you, I've discovered that that's usually never going to change, is what I've discovered. If I meet somebody and I immediately have you and I are just not going to be okay, 99%, it's a rare person that can change my mind. And I'm not good at doing that. So when I say phenomenal, I'm not being facetious or blowing smoke up Maddie's tushy. Really has come through a lot to be where they are now. And you don't have to be at Maddie's level to be effective. You have to be willing to push through whatever might be holding you back. Pushed. If you are being forced to be an ally, it will never work properly.
Mhm.
because there's always, like we talked about earlier, there's always that agenda. And an agenda can also be, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. And you are then creating another negative experience for another individual.
Yeah. And I think for, getting back to the micro allies that we talked about at the beginning, I mean, if you are a person who is beginning to think like, how can I help those around me? The exercise for you is just to stop and take a moment, the environment you're in, the situation you're in, and try to imagine, what who seems out of place, who seems awkward, who seems just looking like they might need help. What are the barriers that are around that might make it difficult for somebody to fully participate? And try to address just one thing that may change things.
Could part of
And
that process
that's,
also be, though, assessing your skills and energy?
yeah,
And
yeah,
like, because you and I talk about that a lot, right? So what time, energy, and skills do you feel you have right now to share
yeah,
for X, right? So Maddie's joining us on another grant application that we put in, and we had a very frank conversation about how busy their life is and what they're up to.
yeah,
And okay, what energy?
yeah,
Because our previous podcast was about that intersectionality of autism and disability and what have you. And so Maddie has to manage their time and they have to manage their energy,
yeah.
which is kind of cool because that means you are very selective in how you are an ally.
I've had to be. That okay. So one of the
That makes you more
biggest
effective, I think.
struggles, yeah, one of the biggest struggles that I think I and many autistics have, those that get involved, is that we have a tendency to say yes, yes, yes to everything. We want to help so much that we don't know how to say no. And having experienced many times where all of because I've it's like a block of Jenga, right? Everything you do something, but you got to take something out. You do something, you got to take something out, like, and you take out the wrong thing or you add too much, and everything falls apart. And in order, because of the major health issues I had 2 years ago in a car accident, having a spinal cord injury, my body's been telling me that I have to be way more aware of the effects of things on me. So it's a matter of understanding, learning to understand yourself and the way your body reacts to what you do. Like if you're starting off doing a couple of small things, your body feels good with that. If you're able to help a little bit here, a little bit there, your body's good for that. But the moment you're starting to feeling anxiety about the same things that you've been doing, your body's telling you, hey, you might be doing too much, or something has changed in what you're doing, and it's not a benefit to you anymore. But it may not be a bad thing in general, but for you, it's not working. And I've had to learn how to say no to something I previously said yes to and pull back. And until these last 2 years, I've never been able to do that. I've just had the Jenga box fall, and I've had to rebuild the tower. And that's always hard to do. But I realized that sometimes it's just a matter of saying, I can say partial yes, or I can say yes to this and this and this in this project, but not the whole thing.
Mhm.
But it's also being not taking on anything that absolutely requires me, because of my health, I can't guarantee 100% that I can do things 100% of the time. So I have to I have to be able to pull back and say no to something that I previously said yes to, so that I don't end up saying an accidental or incidental no to everything.
That's really powerful, because when you do that, when you advocate, that's a form of advocacy, which we've talked about before, is another skill that people struggle with. And that'll be another podcast. But when you do that, when you do give your time, I think it makes it that much more valuable and powerful, because when you say yes to everything, I think it decreases your efficacy in situations because you're everywhere. But when you say no to certain things, and you are diligent about protecting yourself, then when you do give your time, one of the best compliments I ever had, I had a meeting with the executive director of an organization I used to work for. And the previous executive directors were not awesome, to say the least. And this executive director has done an exemplary job of building allyships and micro ally opportunities, and but they are selective in yes or no's. And I've seen a huge change in this organization. And so I brought them in for a quick meeting, and I said, I just need to let you know that you've turned this organization into what I thought it could be 10 years ago. And I'm really impressed. And, you know, you can take this however you want, but I'm so glad to see that this organization can now fulfill the potential that we all thought it could, but wasn't able to under the previous leadership. And they stopped and they looked at me and they said, you know what? You might not think that means much, but I also know you don't bullshit. So coming from you, that actually does mean a lot. And I think that's, folks, as we start to wrap up, I think that's one thing to consider is your motivation for being an ally or creating an allyship. And there's nothing wrong with ego. Don't get us wrong. There's nothing, everybody's got, like Maddie mentioned about, you do get a little, oh, good for me. But if it turns into, hello, look who I brought, and you are, Shazam, look what I brought myself an autistic person. I got my very own. I brought it with me. And here you go. You can have a look at my autistic person and it ain't pretty. Then that's not okay. Now there's my accent, and Southern people don't do that, but.
Oh, was that Southern?
It was something. I don't know. Do you know that actor? He's the Leslie Jordan. He's been on so many shows, like Designing Women and Call Me Kat. And he's this like shortish fella.
Okay.
Gay, great. And I only say gay because they can be very, what's up? It was sort of like him. So anyway, moving on. It doesn't have to be huge to be effective.
Yeah.
Even if you get in, you see somebody being attacked online and you decide to step in and ally with them and help them navigate.
Even just DMing them saying,
I got your back.
Exactly. Like I've had the DMs I've got from parents while I've, especially 3 years ago, while I was in the midst of just getting attacked for a attack based on a misunderstanding or miscommunication, which are the worst. But I had other parents, DMing me saying, we understand what you're saying. We find you very helpful. And that was enough. And for me, my ego, strong. I love being,
fabulous,
associated with something. I love being fabulous, but it's totally, it's just if I could do anything I'd like to do, it would be this. Absolutely, my time with you is so precious. It really is. It really, I'm making a joke, but it really is. But for me, the message that I'm saying is way more important than me saying it. I like getting the kudos for doing it.
Who doesn't?
But but it's, for me, I've had to understand that if I am putting the message aside and it's more about me, I have to pull back and make sure it's the message. And if the message gets heard, if a reporter takes what I said but doesn't attribute to me, but takes what I've said, I'm okay with that.
Oh, there's a little bit of a pinch there, because I get that sometimes too. But
I know that, but I want to see I want to see the change.
Yeah.
I want to be the change, but I want to see the change.
Yeah. Who did be the change? Was that Gandhi? Be the change you want to see in the world?
It's quite possible, but it's certainly.
I mean, he did a lot. So, allyships all over the place.
Exactly.
So that was kind of our thing today, is that, and take this with the good heart it's intended with. Just because you have an autism diagnosis does not mean you have an allyship to give or cannot be an ally. Don't get caught up in your own shit and what's going on and I can't do that. I can't do that. Yes, you can. Yes, you 100% can. And not outside of your comfort zone. And nobody's asking you to be, superhero, whatever. We're asking you to use your gifts and talents and energy to improve the lives of those around you where you can, to manage your energy wisely so that you can continue to do that beyond where you begin, and to look for opportunities. Put yourself in positions where allyships develop. Because if you start to join groups that you feel comfortable and safe in, and you start to engage with folks that have been either giving you help and you've learned from that. And I think, Maddie would agree that some of their opportunities have come from the fact that they've asked for help, learned what they needed to do, and then have turned around and now have the skills and confidence to be an ally for somebody else. But if you don't take that step because you believe being autistic makes that impossible for you, I'm here to tell you, you are wrong. You are able.
Yeah.
You have huge experience and I get a little weepy because when my son was first diagnosed, I had no role model like Maddie. I had no vision of my son's future. I had nobody who was standing up and sharing their experience. And that is a scary place for a parent of an autistic child to be, where you can't visualize what that future could look like. And when you have people forming allyships and helping organizations and sharing their skills and abilities, you make life better for everybody. And it's also a proven mental health benefit, FYI. The more you give outside of yourself in a way that is manageable and reasonable for you,
and safe,
the better your mental health will be, the better your physical health. There's a whole host of improvements that we can go into on another podcast, but Maddie's got to go.
And it doesn't have to be big. We can just look at the small table around you, right?
Yeah.
And in this start small. You get comfortable with how it feels and how 100%. You're doing it, and it has a tendency of becoming a domino of good.
Oh, I like that. You are so alliterative. Oh, that's and while I had mentioned I am intrinsically bold, I have not always been the way I am now. And part of that has been born of having a life full of experiences that were inherently, there was no way to put a positive spin on a lot of this stuff. But you kind of develop this I've shit bigger than you attitude. And if I see somebody going after somebody who requires an ally and they're doing it intentionally, they're targeting that person because they know they don't have, a posse of wagons around them. Oh, I'll be your damn posse. And I will bring every freaking wagon I have, and we will take that little mofo out who's coming after you because I've shit bigger than you. There's not a lot that scares me now. There is not a lot that I will back down from because I have survived worse than whatever's going to come out of your little mouth, I can assure you. And I need folks for you to understand that you are likely in a similar position. If you have been able to go out on the roof and pull your child back in, and whatever that means for you, then you have gone through worse than whatever somebody could say to you. And you need to tap into that and turn it into your cape. Although Edna mode does say no capes. So like whatever your spandex look is, like whatever you need to do.
Yes, darling. Always make the uniforms. No capes.
I have Edna mode in my action figure pile at my office, and I need to move her because she's a little out of vision sometimes. I'm not there today, but yeah, she makes me happy. Anyway, so we will be moving into August the next time we chat.
Yes, we'll have a very august discussion.
So some of the topics that we've got on deck coming up for August, I have to get over into my other spreadsheet here. We have ideas around value of building skills, different ways to develop social skills, bad habits. There's a song about
yes, we can break into Ed Sheeran. Yes.
to save the energy. And then we'll channel
Or
Ed.
actually, Ben Platt also has a song called Bad Habits. So,
It could go either way.
it really could.
So could Ben.
So could Ben.
I mean, am I wrong? I
Yeah.
don't think so.
No, you're not wrong. And I love Ben.
I do. Fabulous. Shifting from volunteer to employee mindset, all those types of. So we've got a bunch of different stuff coming up next month. But for now, we're gonna say thanks for being my ally, my friend. I appreciate
Thank
you
you
very
for
much.
being an ally and a friend.
Travel down the road and back again.
Back again.
Your heart is good. You're a pal and a confidant.
confidant.
We're aging ourselves because that's the Golden Girls theme.
Exactly. And we are Golden Girls, aren't we?
Okay. Nobody needs to hear me sing long term.
Right.
Thank you so much,
very
Maddie.
much.
You're going to hang on a second and I'm going to stop recording and we will talk to everybody soon. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you for joining us on Across the Desk and our new series, The Autistic Rambler. Please visit spirocareerscanada.ca to learn more about the tools we're building with the autism community, and please visit theautisticrambler.com to learn more about Maddie Dever.